Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody, and welcome to the 50th episode of Pangolin, the conservation podcast. The show dedicated to exploring and amplifying the world's underappreciated conservation stories. The stories that inspire me, and I hope will inspire you too. I'm your host, Jack Baker, and today we are celebrating the fact that we've reached 50 episodes with a special Q&A event. That's right, this week I am in the hot seat, and instead of kind of me asking somebody all sorts of questions, I have asked my friends, fans and previous guests to submit questions for me to answer. So, instead of one guest, today I will be joined by Felix, Sara, Catherine, Katie, Kees, Eva, Jodi, Tasnia, Andres, Daniel and Penny. And trust me when I say they really went to town in terms of topics and questions. To give you a little flavour of what's coming up, I'll let you know that we're talking about everything from coffee to dinosaurs, from zoos to rainforests, and from Tanzania to my own back garden. So, as you can tell, we've got a lot to get through, a lot to celebrate, and without further ado, let's get started. And welcome back to the show. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I cannot wait to listen back to all of these questions and to see if I can provide you with some excellent answers to them. I think this is going to be a great opportunity to celebrate all that has gone before of Pangolin and for us to look forward and to just for you to get to know a little bit more about me, the voice behind the microphone. I suppose I usually spend all of my time introducing you to other people, so it'll be nice for me to get a chance to tell you a little bit about what excites me, what interests me, what conservation facts and things, interests me. It's strange, because normally at this point I would be saying something along the lines of, could you introduce yourself to the listeners? So I guess to get us started, I'm Jack. I'm the host of Pangolin, the conservation podcast. We have produced 50 episodes of the podcast. We've produced 10 episodes of ReZoo, our zoo review spin-off show. We've produced 5 episodes of Good Morning Greece, and we are tired. No, I'm joking. Every single episode that comes out, I am more and more enthused by this. I get more and more joyful. You guys send more and more love in, and I'm so grateful for all of that. Animals are, to steal a quote from David Field, from the interview that we did a little while ago, animals are my life. Conservation is my life. Plants, nature, bugs, mammals, fish, everything, birds are my life, and I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to produce 50 of these episodes because of support of all of you. So that's kind of, that's a little bit about me. I don't want to get too emotional right off the bat because, of course, we have a long way to go. We've got lots of questions, and of course, I'll be looping back and thanking you all properly at the end. But yeah, just to kick us off, I guess that's a little bit about me if you didn't know who I was. If this is your first episode and you're thinking, this is strange, this person seems to be going on a bit of a ramble about himself, this isn't a normal episode. I thank you too for listening, but tune into one of the other ones if you want a regular kind of format. Today we're doing something a little bit special. And to kick off that special event, we have our first question, of course. Now, this first question comes from Felix Rowan-Young. He is a member of the Chester Zoo Youth Board. I met him when I went to the Chester Zoo Youth Symposium in 2021. My years are getting all muddled together there, but 2021, and he is just a fabulous, fantastic, incredible person. He's such a good speaker, and he was great to have on the show. We had him on a few weeks ago, and he talked all about forest schools and Chester Zoo and all sorts of weird and wonderful creatures. So it is great to have you back, Felix. Thank you very much. And yes, let's kick off with Felix's question.
Hi Jack, Felix here. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I've got 2 questions for you because, as usual, I'm greedy and can't make a decision. My first question The Pangolin podcast, I know that was based, it came from a research project that you were doing as part of your master's. Was there another animal that was a toss-up that you were going to maybe do instead, or there were a few options and we could have a podcast that's called something completely different and isn't about pangolins? And then my second question, you've just been accepted for your PhD. Congratulations, at the Royal Botanical Gardens in Scotland. Are there any plant conservation projects you would like to highlight? Because usually you don't hear a lot about them. It's usually the animals. And as you know, I'm very much into my non-charismatic animals and species, so plants are perfect for that. Okay, great. Thanks. Love you.
Love you too, Felix. Love you too. Thank you. Thank you very much for the love. Yes. Again, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, seriously, a serious answer. Focus on the questions, not just the ego inflation provided to me by the love you statement. Well, excellent questions as well, Felix. I am so excited by them because, yes, I think they're really, really good. And they give me a chance to look back and also look forward. So looking back, I suppose, your first question about was there anyone else in the running for the Pangolin title? Yeah, so for listeners who don't know, I created this podcast originally for my dissertation project at university. I was studying an MSc in conservation, and I really wanted to kind of do something a bit different for my dissertation. And that is when the pangolin came into my life, and I fell in love, and my whole life was changed forever. And I suppose at the time I was looking at other projects. I was looking at different things, but pangolin in the form that it's in now would not exist, I don't think, if it hadn't been for Pangolin, the creature that inspired me so much. So what I mean, I think, is like, maybe I would have done another project. Maybe there was another project floating around, but I don't think I would have been as inspired by that project as I was by Pangolin, because the Pangolin and its story and its underappreciated status and the way that it made me kind of feel like I had to protect it and work for it and really love it and cherish it and tell as many people as I could about it. I don't know if another animal could have done that. So short answer is no, there was never anyone else. Never anyone else. It was the only one for me. The only one deep down in my heart is the pangolin. I'm having a think, and maybe I could see myself doing like a podcast about something else, but really I don't know. I can't think of anything else. I think some of my other favourite animals are things like tapirs, cassowaries, okapis. I love like all kinds of sea creatures. I love turtles. I love dolphins. I love tigers. I love all sorts of stuff. But I don't think, even if I was to have created a podcast about them, I don't think the naming is as strong as pangolin. I think those 3 syllables really hit with like boom, 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 pangolin. And it just sounds good to me and it's very audibly pleasing. And so, no, I can't see myself of doing it for anyone else. If you have just joined us recently, go back and listen to the first 6 episodes because those were so different to what we're doing now. But I'm still really proud of them. They were all about the pangolin. We talked about trafficking. We talked about how it's the scaly mammal. We talked about some of the other threats. We talked about all of these amazing things about it. And so, yeah, if you haven't listened yet, go back, check out those 6 original things. The podcast was originally called Plight of the Pangolin. We shortened it down to Pangolin when we expanded out into other things. So, yeah, it's changed a bit, but no, it would never be anything but Pangolin. Never ever for me. I suppose I came up with Rizou, but even Rizou, I always introduce it as the sister show of Pangolin. So maybe something else, but nah. Deep down, it's always going to be Pangolin, and it's always in fate and the universe has always intended for me to have this spiritual connection with it. And yes, I guess looking forward from that, we talked about my MSc. I have just been, for listeners, I've just been accepted to do a PhD. I'm so excited. I couldn't believe it when I got the news and I got the funding. I am so excited to get started. I'm going to be studying the impacts of preserved and living collections on the climate and biodiversity crisis. So as a lot of you know, I love zoos and botanic gardens and being in nature, and I'm going to be studying how organisations like the Royal Botanic Garden Edinburgh are impacting the climate and biodiversity crisis, and how they can maybe modify their methods of working, how they can maybe be more inclusive, how they can kind of make their work more progressive, how kind of all of these things floating around. I'm really, really excited to get started because it brings in kind of my undergrad in politics, it brings in my MSc in conservation, it brings in all my passions, and I'm so excited to get started. And yeah, I'll be starting that this year. So thank you for giving me an excuse to bring that up, Felix. I suppose a plant story that really inspires me or really interests me is actually related to my PhD. I thought I'd talk about one that's kind of close to home, almost. And it's a project by the Royal Botanic Garden Edinburgh, funnily enough, since that's where I'll be studying and what I'll be working on. And it's their project in Tanzania. So for those of you who don't know, Tanzania has a lot of forests, but there are about 170,000 square kilometres of unreserved forests. And they are under huge amounts of threat. There are things like unregulated timber exports, there's a need for wood for construction and fuel, and all of these things are kind of knocking away at Tanzania's forests. And so what's happening is the Royal Botanic Garden Edinburgh is working in Tanzania with the government and with different organisations to help kind of promote community-based forest management initiatives. So they are kind of teaming up with local people and governments and organisations to go into communities, kind of assess the needs of communities, assess the forests that are around them, and kind of working with them to kind of help them manage the forests and help them kind of not telling them what to do at all, but kind of like working with them in a collaborative way and working out what's best for them. And yeah, it's really an important and interesting initiative. They've created a film that's been seen by kind of over 36,000 children in Tanzania. They're kind of working on gender equality initiatives within the villages to kind of make sure that when there are benefits of the community-based kind of forest management, they're spread equally. It's not just the kind of men of the community that are benefiting. Everyone benefits equally. There's forest surveys, there's village surveys to kind of understand kind of how people value the monetary and non-monetary benefits of the forests and the project. And so, yeah, it's a really interesting kind of project that I'd encourage everyone to go and learn more about, because it's something that I think we don't talk about enough, the plants. As you said, rightly said, Felix, I think we kind of all have this idea in our heads of like, animals need protecting, animals are cute, animals are this, animals are that, da-da-da-da-da. But the ecosystems and the plants and everything that they rely on are just as important and just as interesting. And so by talking about kind of a plant management kind of project and a forest management kind of project, I hope I've inspired some of you to go and look at that. So yeah, thank you for prompting that, Felix, and thank you for prompting that excellent opportunity for me to kind of talk about my PhD and tell all of the people out there about that as well. So thank you. Yeah. I guess that's the first question. This is odd because normally I'd be having a conversation with someone at the time, but because we've got so many guests, there's no one to respond to me, so I'm just kind of talking to myself. So now I now have to introduce another guest to ask me a question. That's exciting. So next up is Sara. Sara Baker is my sister, so I forced her to ask me a question. She recently graduated, or is about to graduate, from university, where she studied business and sustainability. So you can see we are clearly birds of a feather. And yeah, here is her question.
What is one conservation fact that you've not shared yet that you think everybody should know?
Well, thank you so much for that, Sara. Didn't sound forced at all there. No, it's a really good question, actually, and I think it's excellent. I think, I think one conservation fact that everyone needs to know is actually something about pangolins that I have not brought up enough. And that is the fact that their babies are not just cute, They're not just small, they don't just ride on the backs of their mothers to get around, which is exceptionally adorable, and I still recommend people go and Google. I will say it until you've all seen it. Go and Google it. Another exceptionally cool, interesting, important, fascinating, lovable, wonderful fact about pangolin babies is that they are called pangopups, which I think is just the sweetest thing in the universe, and I think everybody in the universe needs to know that and tell everyone around them. Because the pangolin is the it's a good name. It's a solid name, as I've said in my previous answer. It's the name. I love it because I gave my podcast is called it. It's a strong 3-syllable boom 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 pangolin, but it's nothing compared to pangopups. I guess maybe in the future, if I do a pangolin spin-off, I'll have to call it like pangopups if it's for kids. Because yeah, very, very cute. Kittens and puppies got nothing on that. So, yeah, that's kind of my fact. Well, thank you so much for that, Sarah. But we have more to get through. So, our next guest is all the way back in season 2 she featured in the show, was the wonderful Catherine Gemmell. So she works for the Marine Conservation Society. When we had her on for our beginner's guide to ocean conservation, while we talked about kind of politics, and we talked about conserving Scotland's oceans, and we talked about how anyone really can be involved in ocean conservation. And yes, this is her question.
Hi, congrats on getting to episode 50. My question would be, list your top 50 sea creatures. No, I'm joking. That'll take us way too long, although we definitely should do that sometime. Today in the news, I heard the amazing news that off the coast of Australia, they discovered a 4,500-year-old seagrass meadow that came from one plant, making it the world's largest plant. Amazing. I would love to know, do you think there's another creature, plant out there that is seriously underrated? And what would it be and why?
Oh, 50 animals under the sea that I love. So, 1, turtles. 2, dolphins. 3, nudibranchs. 4, sea angels. 5. No, I'm joking. Thank you so much for that, Catherine. A fantastic question once again. My guests are really coming in with the hot topics. And yes, I think a fascinating question, because it gave me so much to think about. And I think the thing that I'm going to highlight to start, actually, I'll move on to my kind of story that I feel like more people need to know about. But to start off, I think you've prompted me to talk about seagrass. So, Catherine, you're going to love this answer because it's very ocean-based to start. But yes, if we're talking about kind of underappreciated things, seagrass is a perfect place to start. Seagrass is underrated because I think people don't think about it enough, and they don't realize just how important it is. I think it's the only plant that flowers underwater, which makes it unique and special enough, but it also provides so many important systems and kind of functions, both for animals and for people. So it's really a fascinating, amazing thing. So even though seagrasses occupy less than 0.1% of the seafloor, they are responsible for 10 to 18% of the organic carbon that is kind of stored within the ocean. So they are really big carbon sinks. So they're helping to fight kind of climate change and these kind of effects. And the kind of thing that really puts that in scale, and I think puts that in kind of perspective for everyone, is we often think about the Amazon rainforest and tropical rainforest as kind of the lungs of the earth. They are taking in carbon and they're producing this oxygen for us to survive. But seagrasses, they can do that 35 times faster than tropical rainforests. So they really are this really important thing for kind of the planet's health, they can kind of really churn out this oxygen and kind of get rid of the carbon that is in the atmosphere. But they don't just get rid of carbon. That's not the only thing they get rid of. Seagrasses are natural kind of filters, which filter in and kind of store nutrients for different animals to come along and munch, which I'll talk about in a second. But they get rid of pollutants that are in the water. So they get rid of diseases that would be affecting people and sea creatures, and they do that by kind of reducing marine bacteria by up to 50% in the areas in which they're found. So really, really, really important. And because of all this health and good stuff and nice stuff, healthy seagrass habitat can house 30 times more animals than bare sediment. And this includes things like seahorses and shellfish. They provide a kind of nursery habitat for animals that can kind of swim amongst them and kind of hide among the grasses. They can feed animals, so things like turtles and manatees and dugongs will kind of come in and eat the grass itself. And then also animals which are kind of omnivores will come in, eat the grass, and also the baby fish that were in the nursery, but still good stuff for them. And it's the circle of life, everyone. So it's really a really important thing. I think also there's something about the fact that like coral reef fish will often venture out into sea meadows during the day, seagrass meadows during the day. They'll snack and they'll get all the food and they'll kind of then return to the coral reef for protection at night. So it really is this kind of great important thing for animals and for the environment. And also for us, I guess, seagrass meadows help to provide nutrition for, I read somewhere something like 3 billion people because of the fish that are then able to grow and repopulate and kind of come out of the seagrass. So people are really relying on those for a place to kind of regenerate fish stocks. They also help to prevent coastal erosion. So like they prevent flooding of our neighborhoods and towns. They also kind of have cultural benefits. So seagrass is often used in thatching and weaving. So really they are all this fabulous thing. So yes, go and learn more about seagrass and what you can do to protect it. I know here in Scotland there is Project Seagrass going on, or is it Restoration Forth that I think it's called? They're kind of working in the Forth to help protect or plant seagrasses and revitalise that environment. So there are conservation projects for seagrass all around the world. It's a really interesting, amazing kind of thing. So you should go and learn more about that. But sorry for that tangent, Catherine. You're welcome because I know you love the oceans. But the animal or the underappreciated thing that I would like to talk about, aside from seagrass, is another plant. We're going plant heavy on this episode, but I think it's because they're on my mind a lot recently. Because obviously working in a botanic garden, they're always in my head, and I don't think we've talked about them enough. And I think the thing that I'd like to highlight is something that everybody sees every day. It's something that you all take for granted. It's something that you probably might be drinking right now. And that is coffee. So coffee that we know, obviously, comes from across the world. But coffee Arabica, I believe, is kind of a wild form of coffee in which the kind of everything that we know and love comes from. And the wild coffee is actually facing threats out in the wild. And I don't think enough people realise that. So it was originally found in Ethiopia and South Sudan, but because of things like deforestation and development and climate change causing drought, there's also beetles kind of eating the coffee. What's it called? The coffee berry borer is a very small and dangerous beetle that will kind of munch away at coffee leaves and destroy the plants. And so there's all of these things going on that are making the kind of the wild coffee populations become endangered and are at risk of extinction. So yes, I think the kind of Arabica coffee should be of great concern to everyone, because it's something we rely on for the economy. For it provides a lot of money to certain areas, and it's something we should all be thinking about. You might think though, why wild coffee? Why does it matter? Well, wild coffee is where all the kind of genetic diversity is. So obviously when you when you grow and grow and grow more and more plants, they will kind of over time become genetically similar. They'll cross over and all these things, but we need the genetic diversity of the wild plants to keep them healthy. And so it's a really important thing we all need to be thinking about. And there's projects going on across the world to help protect them. I believe UNESCO has created a biosphere reserve to protect them. There are kind of all sorts of things going on around the world. I think there's seed banks and things to protect them. And I guess on a daily basis, it's being affected by climate change causing drought. When you get your coffees every day, if you buy them from places like, I don't know if I can mention the name of various coffee shops because I'm now realizing I might get sued. But if you get your coffee every day from a shop that is very, very famous and has a logo and that is very famous and all of these things, if you get it from something like that, make sure you're getting it in either a reusable cup or something that can be recycled. Make sure you're getting fair trade coffee if you can. Make sure you're, just doing really environmentally friendly practices around your coffee consumption. And that can help save coffee, I guess, would be my recommendation. So that's a kind of interesting one. And I guess, that would be my underappreciated thing. Something else, I guess, that you touched on there, Catherine, that's really interesting, is that kind of you saw it in the news. And I think good environmental news is often hard to come by. So something I'd like to highlight, as always, is conservation optimism. It's a great blog and website and podcast and all sorts of things that highlights good news stories, like this seagrass one. But they post a blog every week about 7 stories of optimism. So go in and look at that as well. So I think this week they talked about a species of tortoise that has been found for the first time in 100 years. They talked about greater one-horned rhinos increasing in number and saiga antelopes increasing in number. So all sorts of great stuff there for the animal lovers, not just the plants. So yes, those would be my answers. I like seagrass, I like coffee, and I wanted to talk about conservation optimism for you, Catherine. And so yes, thank you very, very much for your question. Up next, we have one of your fellow Marine Conservation Society brethren, sisterhoods, I don't know, and that is the lovely Jodi Mcfarlane. Now, Katie, I've known Katie for many, many years. We're good friends, and she's appeared on the podcast. She works for the Marine Conservation Society, as I said. She has her own podcast, Wee Blue Dot, and she is here to ask me a question today. So, Katie, what is your question?
Hey Jack, it's Katie. You know how much I love environmental history, so my question is, if you could go back in time to any period of the Earth's history to either see the environment, see or meet, in your case maybe meet the animals, which period would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good question, Katie. Oh, that is a good question. I think... I'm having to think. Oh, okay. I know exactly where I would go. I would go back to a land before time. I would go back to not the Jurassic period, as people may often think associated with the dinosaurs. I would go back to the late Cretaceous, about 97.5 million years. I would go back. I'm not jumping back far, just 97.5 million years to the late Cretaceous. And you might think, why? Why go back to a time before humans, before all of these, even our what we would consider to be our closest relatives, millions of years before them? Well, that is because the late Cretaceous is home to some of the best dinosaurs of all time. It has Ornithomimus, it has Lembeosaurus, it has Triceratops, it has T-Rex, it has Protoceratops, Velociraptor, Ankylosaurus, it has my favourite dinosaur, it has Parasaurolophus. It has all of the best dinosaurs are in the late Cretaceous. Fight me on that, paleontologists. And yeah, I would go back. I would go back to the late Cretaceous. I think it's just the time. I think when I was younger, it was dinosaurs that inspired me to love nature and love reptiles and love birds and love all of these things. And I think, that's where I would go, because it would be nice to see something far bigger, far more impressive than I, and something that I would never see anywhere else. I don't think there's anything else similar to a dinosaur alive today in terms of scale. And so, I would go back to the late Cretaceous, where I would see my favourite dinosaur. I guess people might think it's weird for a 24-year-old to have a favourite dinosaur, and especially a favourite dinosaur that is not like T-Rex or Stegosaurus or whatever it is. I like Parasaurolophus. I've always liked it because of its weird head. So for those of you who don't know, Parasaurolophus is one of the dinosaurs that has kind of this big... It's got, how would I describe it? I don't know the official word. It's got basically like, it looks very cute and cuddly and just wonderful. And it goes to show how weird I am that I would cuddle one. But it just looks great. It has this big kind of thing coming out the back of its head, this big It's not like a sail. It's just this big thing coming out the back of its head. It's cool, and I just love it. So that would be where I would go. I suppose people might expect me to say something like the Jurassic, because that's like Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, Jurassic. All of these things are like the most famous dinosaur era. But I think like they do have cool dinosaurs. They have things like Apatosaurus. I think it has Stegosaurus and Brachiosaurus were in the Jurassic, and I love them. I've always loved long-necked dinosaurs, to be fair. Ever since I watched Walking with Dinosaurs, that episode about the Diplodocus was so cute and so fantastic, and it's stuck with me since. But no, I'm not changing. I'm sticking with the late Cretaceous. I will probably instantly get eaten, but I don't care. I want to see some dinos. I like how you asked it in the context of like, oh, it's probably about the animals for you, yeah. Yes, it is, Katie. Of course it is about the animals. It's always about the animals. And yes, I would go back and see the lovely late Cretaceous period. I was about to start singing the Jurassic theme there, and I was like, nope, I'll get sued. So, yes. Now, up next we have, thank you, of course, Katie. Thank you. Up next, we have another question. We got to keep it moving, guys. And my next question is actually from, not a guest, not a friend, not a family member, but a fan, I suppose, who I've chatted to on Instagram and Twitter and all over the place, who is just, really, really nice, really, really friendly, and has submitted a great question for me today. So this is from Kees. Kees? My pronunciation is probably incorrect. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Who's doing an MSc in Applied Zoo Biology, and he has asked an excellent question, and here it is.
So I was wondering, what is the most inspirational story or quote that one of your guests has told during your podcast?
So yes, I guess it's really hard for me to talk about inspirational stories because there are so many. Like, everyone I talk to, every guest I've had on, every guest who's just asked a question, and every guest who's about to come has affected and changed my life and my perspective in some way. But I think the inspirational story or quote, I guess, that's most affected me actually comes from season 1. And that's when I talked to Morgan Hotflash about trophy hunting in Namibia. Now, we only touched on it briefly, but I think it's really interesting and really important to talk about. So trophy hunting is legal in Namibia. I know there's lots of debate about whether it should be and whether it should be allowed at all. And hunting is and trophy hunting are a really kind of debated and hot topic. So I'm not going to go into my opinion too much on it because I haven't done enough research to do so. But basically, it's allowed. And the reason it's allowed is because when an animal is hunted by a tourist, they come in, they spend lots of money, they pay to hunt a singular animal. That animal is often selected based on the fact it is past reproductive age. It's kind of an old animal, an injured animal. It's something that will kind of be of no use, conservation-wise, and human-focus-wise, of no kind of use. So they pick, they pick an animal and they hunt it. And that provides the funds. And that challenged my opinion because originally I thought trophy hunting was always bad. I thought there was no good hunting. I thought it was something that could not be done in a way that was sustainable. It could not be done in a way that was correct. I also had this idea of kind of poaching mixed in with trophy hunting, where poaching is obviously kind of this illegal practice where people go in and kill rhinos and stuff illegally and just take. And so I got those concepts kind of mixed up and muddled. And I always thought trophy hunting would be bad. But in listening to Morgan talk about it, it inspired me because it kind of it challenged my ideas and it challenged my conservation viewpoint in a way which I didn't expect to be challenged in. I had very set ideas, I guess, of what conservation should be, of animal rights, of animal welfare, and it challenged those. And it made me think about the fact that if a community is going to be plunged into poverty if you end trophy hunting and the killing of one animal, and if the killing of one animal, I guess, can stop that, is it worth killing that animal? And it just kind of challenged me in this way. And I think that's what conservation is constantly doing. It constantly provides these questions and quandaries and bits and things, that these unanswerable debates. And I love that. And it inspires me constantly. So yes, I guess that is my inspirational story that someone has told me. I guess that's not kind of what people would be expecting. I guess they'd be thinking about something that maybe inspired me in a different way. But in terms of really challenging my viewpoint and changing the whole way I look at conservation and the world around me, that would be the one. I don't know. I guess if you want a fuller information on trophy hunting, please let me know, because I'd love to do more about it. So yeah, that's kind of a brief touch on trophy hunting in Namibia. But yeah, that's kind of my inspirational thing. Thank you so much, Morgan, for inspiring me in that way, and thank you, Kees, for asking the question. I think it's an excellent one. Yeah, thank you. Now we come to someone who I was meant to go to Namibia with pre-pandemic until the trip was cancelled. What a transition that is. To my lovely friend Eva. Eva I met during my MSc in conservation. She was studying international development, and when we talk about challenging my viewpoints and challenging the way I look at the world, there is no one who did that more than Eva. My friendship with Eva was fantastic because she does not beat around the bush. She asks questions and she gets things done, and she is the most inspirational person because she just is fantastic, and she's achieved far more than her years should have allowed her. She is so wise. She's just the best. And yes, I really, I love Eva. If you're listening, Eva, I love you so much. Thank you so much for asking this question. Yes, let's find out what it is. Listeners, here is Eva's question.
Hi everyone, and hi Jack. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Just to briefly introduce myself, I'm Eva. I'm currently studying law in the United States on the East Coast. And here are my questions for you. So first off, Jack, could you please give me 2 fun facts about conservation? Could be really anything related to plants or animals, or why you love working in conservation. Just 2 fun facts or curious facts about conservation that would really keep or start people thinking. Right. My second question for you is essentially, what species do you think is most worth being protected, and why? And my third and last question is, if the prime aim and justification for conservation and conservation research is to benefit biological diversity, how is it that there is a widely acknowledged mismatch between the priorities of academic researchers and the needs of practitioners? And could you help us identify a solution to the needs of practitioners and also research needs? Thank you so much.
Eva, you are, you have okay, you've asked 3 questions. You started light and you worked your way to a really challenging one. So let's start easy and work our way up, shall we? So yes, 2 fun facts to start with. There are so many fun facts I have, because obviously I work in a zoo. I know a lot of weird things about animals. Now, I have specifically chosen 2 facts for you, Eva, that I know are going to make you cringe, because I'm cruel, but also because they're really interesting and they're really fun and they're just silly for the listeners. So I have chosen them. The first of them is the binturong. It's about the binturong. The binturong is sometimes known as the bear cat. It's basically if a red panda, I think we described it on on one of our Rizoo episodes. If a red panda had a really rough weekend, it's a bit like that. So it's a big raccoony red pandy creature, but it's black. It's got these big long whiskers. It's fantastic. And so the interesting thing about the binturong is that they smell like popcorn. Their pee smells like popcorn. And yeah, that's an interesting thing about them. If you're ever at the zoo and you pass by and you think, that smells tasty. Nope. So that's an interesting thing. And yeah, the second thing I wanted to mention is about Przewalski's horse. So Przewalski's horse is a horse that was extinct in the wild, and thanks to breeding within zoos has come back and is kind of regrowing in number. Speaking of growing, what a transition. Oh God, listeners, I'm so sorry. I'm now getting nervous about telling you this, but it's a good fact. I couldn't independently verify this online because Googling it was very tricky. But something which I have been told about the Przewalski's horse, which I think is really interesting, and I think I believe the person who told me, and I think it is true, because I've seen it happen, is that when a Przewalski's horse gets too hot, they need to get blood outside the body to cool down. They need to like kind of increase their surface area and kind of get it out. And so male Przewalski's horse, when they are too hot, will give themselves an erection to get the blood out of the body. Now, when they do that, obviously it cools down faster, less surface area than their whole body, and yeah, it will cool them down. So that's a second interesting fun fact for you about animals and conservation, I suppose. And yes, so the second part of your question, again, really, really interesting and really, really challenging, actually, in a way, is kind of you asked about which animals are most deserving of protection. Now, there's so many ways of classifying that, and there's so many different standards and practices, and the IUCN Red List comes in, and there's all sorts of other little lists that are used to rank animals for protection. I think something that I like to use in terms of like, I could not, like, personally, obviously I'd pick pangolins or something, whatever, because I love them. But yeah, I can't pick. So a way to rate animals that's really, really interesting in terms of prioritizing protection is the EDGE program. So it stands for, I'm always bad at remember this, evolutionary distinct and globally endangered. Evolutionary distinct and globally endangered list. And what this does is it takes the conservation status of an animal and how genetically distinct it is, it combines them, and it gives them a score. And it ranks animals based on kind of how unique and how endangered they are. And it smooshes all that together in a really clever way, and it ranks animals. And so, yes, according to the EDGE species, some of the most important animals that out there are things like the large-toothed sawfish, the Attenborough's long-beaked echidna, Chinese giant salamanders, green sawfish, purple frog, Seychelles palm frog, lots of different types of frogs. There's lizards, there's birds. The black rhinoceros is in kind of the top 10. There's types of coral in the top 10. The Ganges river dolphin is up in the top 20. Wild camels, eagles, Darwin's frog, the hawksbill turtle, all sorts of things. Gharials, which are like big crocodile type things, are all in the kind of top ranked bracket for EDGE species in terms of how distinct they are and how kind of endangered they are. And so, yeah, looking at this top list, there's loads of different animals on it, as I've just mentioned. But yes, what's good about the EDGE list is alongside the distinctiveness and the endangeredness, they also have a conservation attentionness factor. And so things at the top of the list, like the sawfish, are actually ranked good in terms of conservation attention. And so by process of elimination, the animal which has the worst kind of scores in terms of like they are very endangered, they are very kind of distinct, and they have very low attention on them, the animal that I would have to answer using all of those factors is Attenborough's long-beaked echidna. So it's the smallest and one of the most threatened species of echidna. And it is, of course, distinct because echidnas and platypus are the only mammals that lay eggs. So that makes it distinct, it makes it important, it makes it endangered. And so, yes, I guess that would be my answer. I also up there, I suppose, would be the Seychelles palm frog. It's got a very low conservation attention. Who else? The Chinese crocodile lizard has very low attention and is near the top of the list. The black rhino, shockingly, is a very charismatic animal. So that actually is working against it in this sense because it's got conservation attention opposed to the other ones which don't. So that's why it hasn't been ranked for me as one of those top 3 that need prioritized. So yeah, if I had to pick 3, Chinese crocodile lizards, Seychelles palm frog, and of course, Attenborough's long-beaked echidna. You thought you were going to catch me out on that one. I bet you did, but I managed to pick one. And yes, I guess finally, your last question about the gap in research and practical needs, that is a podcast unto itself. That is a whole hour's discussion. But I suppose what I would say in my, I guess thinking about it, The practical needs of conservation, in my opinion, this is the thing, it varies from person to person who you ask. So some people's practical needs will be kind of the need for survival. Some people's practical needs will just be they want to preserve a local species. Some people's practical needs will be that they need to, I feed their families. They need to. It's such a hard one to say. I suppose for me, the practical need for me is to kind of promote biodiversity and help protect species and ecosystems and plants and everything that I inherently believe have just this right to exist and be there. I don't think that we as a human race have the right to say that we're better than nature. I don't think we have a right to take things that are so important and so special and so unique and just squash them like they're nothing. So I guess I'll address it from my perspective and my practical need and the research need. So the research, the gap between me and the research, I suppose, is that my big practical struggle is communication, and the practical gap for me is between me and research is that research is often hard to understand and hard to translate. So I guess for me, this is such a hard question. I guess for me, that we need to close that gap between the research and the people, and we need to invest more in communicating conservation and working out what the best and most effective ways of communicating the really dire need for the protection of our natural habitats is. Obviously, we need to do this in a way bridging to one of the other practical needs, which is obviously people's survival and the inherent ability for people in conservation-focused areas to thrive, is that we need to translate this in a way that's not just research-based, but also social science-based, and also includes the people who are local to the conservation issues. We can't just swoop in and say, well, we've inspired all these people now by communicating that the red panda, say, is endangered. We need to swoop in now, and we don't care about what you're doing and what your customs are. We're going to just protect the red panda. We can't do that. So there's this weird gap in multiple directions and all this stuff that needs to be merged together. So I think we need to find a way for social science, scientific research, and communication to work in tandem. And it's a really impossible thing to do. It's a really challenging thing to do. I suppose throughout my PhD, I'm going to explore it. Thank you, Felix, for prompting me to bring that up, because that's made that easier to explain to people. But yeah, I guess that would be my thought, is that we need to address this challenge of how conservation is detached from people, it's detached from people in the UK and detached from everyone feels just detached. We need to address that. And I don't have a solution. I think we all just need to realize that we are all going through different things. We all have very different life experiences, and no one has the right to tell anyone else exactly what to do. We need to work collaboratively, inclusively, and just in the way that best promotes the health of the earth for all of us. And Eva, I'm very sorry, I don't have an answer, but that would be the major challenge I could identify for me. And I suppose that's my answer, is that it's a lot of work to be done. We need to teach people to value nature, to value each other. And if that can be done, and if that very complex pattern can be weaved, only then shall we achieve conservation success. And I'm positive it can be done. I think that's a really hard... I think I've sounded very negative or scared there, but I think it's something we can do. And I think the world is more ready now than ever to embrace the fact that diversity and conservation and ecological issues all matter and all need to be dealt with together. And so that is what I would say as the answer to your question. I don't know if that answers your question, but I hope it does, and I hope it's given a moment of seriousness in the middle of this podcast, which I'm glad for, because it's a thing that we need to think about. And if anyone is out there listening and is an expert on a topic like this, contact me, because I'd love to speak to someone about it in more depth. But that's my answer to that question. Your bumper 3 questions, Eva. Great questions, but a bumper 3. That's my answer. Now, moving on, we are going to a familiar voice. We've had a couple guests who people will not have recognised, but we're moving to someone who you will all be familiar with. She is the lovely, she is the fabulous, she is the wonderful, the one and only co-host of Rizoo, the Zoo Review podcast, Jodi Mcfarlane. Take it away, Jodi.
Hello. So if you were to design your own dream zoo exhibit, what would it look like? Can you describe it to me? And in your opinion, what makes a good zoo exhibit?
Oh, what is it with you and all the hard questions today, guys? This is hard in a different way though, where Eva's was hard in like an academic way. Jodi, your question is hard because I love all sorts of different things, and I would love to design all sorts of zoo exhibits. I guess if we start with the first part of your question about what makes a good exhibit should prioritize education, and it should prioritize the health and welfare and protection of the animal. So I suppose if I was to design something that is both engaging and welfare for the animal, I would like to design something. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put myself in the shoes of if I was running a zoo in Scotland. So if I was given a huge budget and running a zoo in Scotland, what would I design? And I'm going to base this on what's around in Scotland and what's near me. And I'm going to draw inspiration from things that are far away that I love. Because I think if it was unique and special to Scotland, that also adds to the good value of it and how making it special. So if I was to design a zoo in Scotland and a really good exhibit, there's two. Okay, I have two ideas. I'm not narrowing it down. So two ideas would be, I would like okapis. I think okapis are a really underappreciated and underutilized species that are so special and so unique. They are just as cool as their more popular cousins, the giraffe. No matter what anyone else says, they are just as magical and special. So I'd like to have an okapi rainforesty area. So a huge forest, like as far as the eye could see, and I would have okapis. I'd have other animals that live in forests in Central Africa, and I would create this kind of woodland walkway. Because I think a lot of the time in Africa zones in zoos, in the UK, we focus on just plains. We have like sandy plains. We have rhinos in fields. We have giraffes in fields. We have elephants in fields. And I think to twist that slightly and put a foresty aspect would be really interesting and really cool. And it might be hard to spot the animal, but guess what? That makes it a good exhibit because okapis are mysterious. They were only discovered really recently because they are so mysterious. So I'd like to do something like that. But something else I would do is I think in Scotland certainly, and in the UK I guess as a whole as well, actually thinking about it, we don't have enough like indoor greenhouse spaces. So like I can think about like, obviously there's the monsoon forest, which I think is the best example at Chester Zoo in the UK. It's the best example of kind of like an indoor glasshouse greenhousey zone I can think of. But aside from that, I can't think of any others that I've really, really loved. So I'd maybe design some kind of big glass house, very similar to the ones that they have in Toronto Zoo. So they have these big glass pavilions, which are heated homes that are jungle. They're kitted out with loads of live plants from the areas that are kind of the animals are from. And it just feels like walking from a very cold outdoors into you're transformed into one of these pavilions. So I would build a big glass pavilion and I would theme it like I guess Chester Zoo has the orangutan kind of angle covered. So I would maybe theme it like, what would I do? I would theme it like maybe Africa again. Maybe I'd have like an African swampy area with like lots of like wading birds. Maybe that would be cool. I'd maybe theme it like a reptiles, maybe like a desert, just have it really dry and have it like a desert zone. That would be cool. You could do like a big islands glass, like I suppose that's Chester, you've had this idea, but I would do like different islands. I would have like Galapagos tortoises. Maybe you could do like a Komodo dragon ones. I don't know. I have so many ideas, but some kind of big glass house that was filled with that, because I don't think we have enough of those in the UK. And I think they really help transport, because obviously I've said that like the priority of zoos should be education and conservation. And these would conserve animals in a way that would promote their welfare, but also educate people and inspire people because they'd feel transported because of the heat and the plant life that would be within these zones and glass houses to a new world and somewhere they'd never been. And yeah, it would be inclusive because people who would never get the opportunity to travel to the rainforest of wherever it is, or the forest or the desert or whatever it is, would be able to do that mentally here. And that would be my answer. Hard question for me to narrow down, but yes, that would be my answer. So yeah. Thank you. That would be my answer. So yeah, thank you very, very much, Jodi, for that question. I will probably change my mind about 6 or 7 times on this, but yeah, thank you very much. Now, moving on before we ramble about zoos for too long. we have the lovely Tasnia. Tasnia has now been on the show this is her fourth appearance, I think. And every time she offers something different. We talked about dogs. She interviewed me. We talked about, what was the other topic we talked about? Dogs. And then she came on for our New Year special and we talked about all sorts of different stories. And yeah, she's just a positive force of light and love and sunshine, and she's just great. So go back and listen to those episodes. And so yes, without further ado, the lovely Tasnia.
I know that you have talked about what motivates you to work in conservation and what drives you. Big hint, it's the animals. But I wanted to know, what's the worst part of working in conservation? If not the worst, but like the parts that make you think twice, or, you know, things that you struggle with, for anyone who's considering changing fields, perhaps. And any word of advice you have to how you address them. Yeah, just trying to bring down the fort of positivity here. Only negativity prevails. Sorry.
Well, that's a downer. No, no, it is a downer, but it's a good and important question, because conservation is not always easy. It's not always good, and it's not always positive, which might sound like a bit of a shatter of the illusion to some people, but it isn't. It's not always good news. And I think the most challenging thing for me that I have to deal with is that we can't win every battle. You can't save everyone. You can't you can't win every time, it sucks. It sucks. It's not good. But the thing that gets you through those losses and gets you through the little things where you're like, I would have really loved to protect this subpopulation. I really would have loved to help this unique species or plant or whatever it is bloom and thrive in this area. Everything, no matter how many times you fail and you fall down on these small things, ultimately, the fight is never lost. There is still more you can do and still more you can protect. And every time you see yourself as failing, you're not failing. You're learning more and more and more about how you can do better the next time and how you can save and how you can help another species thrive. So it's a challenge, but the challenge can be turned into such a positive if that's your mindset. So yeah, I guess it's turning into a TED talk here, but yeah, the challenge of conservation is you can't win, but you always learn and you can always do better and you can always protect something else. If one individual goes, it's sad and it's painful, especially when you love animals as much as me, and I know a lot of listeners do, but you have to keep fighting. And if you do, eventually we will win this battle and we will win this war to protect the wonderful biodiversity of this planet. It can be done. It can be done. And no matter the challenges, we will get through. So yeah. Oh, that was my speech. That's the Oscar clip right there. Oh, fantastic. Tasnia, thank you. It's a deep question, but thank you so much for asking it. And thank you for providing some real moments of thinking in this episode that we need to kind of appreciate the real life aspect. So thank you. And listeners, go and check it. Tasnia worked for an amazing organization called Operano, which I am getting better and better at pronouncing. She laughs at me every time. My English dyslexia mind can't always pronounce long and complicated words, but it gets there. And it's a wildlife protection charity in Bangladesh which works with street dogs. Does amazing work. So go and check that out. And yeah, thank you so much, Tasnia. But on that negative note, I'm going to turn it round because this next question is about the good stuff. And the good stuff question comes from the lovely Andres, who has not been on the show yet, but he is amazing. He's fantastic. He works with sloths in Costa Rica, and his Instagram is amazing. There's always sloths, there's always amazing animals, there's tapirs, there's everything. And he works at Toucan Rescue Ranch, an amazing organization that's protecting these fantastic creatures there. He's a vet, and yeah, he's just great. And he's here to ask us a positive question. So without further ado, take it away.
Hi, everyone, and hi, Jack. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm currently studying law, and my English dyslexia mind can't always pronounce long and complicated words, but it gets there. Without further ado, take it away. Adieu. Without further ado, take it away. What's your favorite part of working in conservation? What's the thing that, you wake up in the morning and you're like, this is why I do this?
What a good question, and what a positive question, and what a great, I'm so happy question got asked, because I there's so many good things to conservation. There's so many things that gets me up in the morning, that get me up in the morning. I love getting up and knowing that everything I do, no matter how small, because I'm in this career path, has a purpose. Everything is kind of, it's helping, everything I do is helping to secure a future. And even if I get through to one person, or I plant one batch of wildflower seeds, or I grow one plant successfully, or I get one person to sponsor a charity organization, there's so many good things. It's a win, and I've won, and I've done a good thing that will help the planet. So that's kind of something that gets me up in the morning, because everything you do matters, and everything you do is a choice to help make the world better, I guess. And I know that's a very me-centric answer, but that's kind of the inspiration, is that you keep yourself going by focusing on these positives. I guess the other thing that kind of taking it away from me is that the things that I do when I get up are helping to preserve the diversity of life, which will go on far beyond me. It's reminded me of a line from Hamilton that really is actually, I feel like I'm about to tear up. It's making me so happy. Is that legacy is planting seeds in a garden that you'll never get to see. And I think that's what I'm hopefully doing. And that's what gets me up, because I'm helping to plant seeds, and whether they be species, whether they be plants, actual physical seeds, I'm helping to plant a future for an earth and for a biodiverse globe and ecosystems that will go on far beyond me. And that's what is magical, and that's what matters. That's what is fantastic, because these things all have a right and a purpose to exist, and helping to protect that is an honor and a privilege that I do not take lightly. So that is the reason that I get up every morning. And also, I suppose the people. I couldn't do this, answer this question without highlighting the fact that every guest that I've had on the podcast, every person who's submitted a question, every family member or friend who's listened, has somehow contributed to conservation, and they're all beautiful and wonderful. And I've met and formed friendships with beautiful and wonderful people because of conservation. And those people are also what get me up, because they're also constantly inspiring me, because they're doing different things and they're working on different projects and they're succeeding in different ways and having different big wins. And so I guess that would be my answer, is like legacy and people, I think, are the reasons I get up every morning. We're getting into an emotional stage of the podcast now, aren't we? We started strong with conservation stories, and now we're just like marinating in in emotion, and I like that. I like that for us. For episode 50, it seems correct. Yes, moving on before we get too caught up. The next question comes from one of my best friends. One of the people I have known longest in my whole life, actually. And that is Daniel. Daniel and I went to beavers and cubs and scouts and explorers together. We have travelled to Switzerland. We share a love of very many nerdy things like Marvel and Star Wars, but you know what? We don't care, because we have each other to talk about it with, and that's all that matters. And I know out there are also many nerdy people listening to this who also love those things. So you will be on our side. You'll know how strong that bond is, the people in your life who you can nerd out over a new Star Wars trailer with. That's why Daniel is the best to me. I'm such a good friend. Daniel, if you're listening to this, I've just bigged you up big time there. So there you go. And Daniel, what is your question?
Hi, Jack and Pangolin podcast. Congrats on the milestone episode. My question to you is, obviously, you ask every interviewee for one piece of advice for listeners to take away on how to make a difference to conservation, wildlife, or the environment in general. Has there been any piece of advice in particular from your interviews that's made you go, wow, that's a good idea, and you've then taken away to implement into your own life or your day-to-day actions? Congrats again, and I look forward to listening to many, many more episodes of Pangolin.
Thank you. I will do many, many more. You do not have to worry. There will be hundreds and hundreds more episodes, he says nervously, because he's just realised how much work that is. No. I guess the bit of advice that has affected me the most is one that I mention all the time, which is don't lose the childlike joy which comes from conservation. Because I know it can be hard and I know it can be tricky, as we just talked about, but you're always doing good things. And as long as you keep the wonder of the world in your eyes, you will keep going. And that was something that my supervisor for my MSc told me, and kind of was the underlying thesis statement of the whole project when it started. So I guess it's not been on the show, but that's the bit of advice that really sticks with me. Other bits of advice that have actually been on the show, since that was the question, is, I guess, something that comes up a lot is start small. And I think a couple guests have said it, so I'm not going to fake and pretend to remember who exactly it was. But the starting small idea, think local, look at your back garden. What can you do in there to make the world a better place? What can you do in your local park to make the nature and conservation a better place? What can you do in your daily schedule to make it a better place? Can you get a bus instead of driving to work? Can you cut out an unsustainable product that is in your washing up bag? What can you do in a little local small scale to make the world a better place? And I think the reason that affected me the most is because obviously I like to think big. I'm a dreamer, and I sometimes forget about the little things. And I know the whole point of the podcast is about pangolins and promoting underappreciated things, so I shouldn't forget about them, but I do. And so, yeah, I guess the bit of advice that has affected me the most is, yes, start small, and don't forget, no matter how grand your vision is for a better world, don't forget about the little things. I also remember during the Land of the Lemurs series, which I did with the Lemur Conservation Network, we talked about shopping sustainably and travelling sustainably, and those kind of tie in because, going to a thrift shop or going to a charity shop and buying clothes instead of constantly ordering off mass-produced fast fashion websites all make a difference. So, yeah, start small, start local, and that's the bit that's really impacted me, and that's something that I've changed and I've learned. And yeah, goes to show that even us podcasters who are constantly talking about conservation with you aren't always perfect. We all have more to learn, and we all have more we can do. So yeah, that would be the most impactful for me. I guess, yes, thank you so much for your question, Daniel. That was fabulous. And I guess we now move on to the final question, which is the question I always ask other people, except this time it is being asked by the lovely, the wonderful, the fabulous, my best friend, one of my best friends in the whole world. Sorry, Penny. I would have given you a singular title there, but I've just had 10 other amazing conservationists talk to me, and they're all up there in best friend territory, so I'm not picking a favourite, but one of my best friends in the whole world, the incredible Penny Jacobs, who featured on season 1 of Pangolin all those episodes ago, all those years ago now, talking about wet markets and that kind of thing. And yeah, so she's here, she's back, she's made her triumphant return. And Penny, what is your question? That was very serious. What is your question? But what is it?
Hi Jack, it's Penny. You've been doing this for a while now, and you've gotten to speak to all sorts of incredible people. My question for you is, looking back on everything that you've learned so far, if there was one piece of advice that you could give to someone who's wanting to get involved in conservation, what would it be?
That is a fabulous question that I always ask my guests. So I'm very glad I have been asked it, Penny, Miss Penny Jacobs. I think the piece of advice that I would give to somebody who wants to get involved in conservation is something that I wish I'd been told. Or no, I was told. I wish something I'd believed long ago. And that is, throughout school, teachers and whoever it is just tell you to believe in yourself and just do what you're good at. And I don't know if this is just a me thing or an everything thing, but I just didn't believe them, that I was good at things and that I could do things and that my voice mattered and that whatever I did was good or whatever. I just didn't believe them, and I lacked confidence, and I couldn't bring myself to speak up or do whatever. So the advice I would give and tell you all to believe, unlike I did, is believe in yourself, and anything you do is good. Anything, even if you're not a scientist or a big reader, or you're not an artist, or you're not a talker, or you're not whatever skill set you have or don't have doesn't matter. Whatever you're good at is what you should focus on and do it, and just do conservation using it. If you want to be involved in conservation and you're an artist, use your art to promote it. If you're a talker, do a podcast. If you're a singer, write a song and raise money through the funds that the song raises. Like, there's so many ways to get involved, and just doing it and believing in yourself that these passions are enough is so powerful. And I think, believe those around you who tell you you're good enough and that tell you that you're amazing, because you are. Every single one of you are the best. And you want to know why you're the best? Because you have listened to this show and you've got me here and you've made me feel special and you've helped me keep going. And so even if you don't do anything else but listen to this show, your listenership and your subscription and your like or your review or whatever it is, you're keeping me going. So believe in yourself and do what you're good at. And because you believe in me, I do good things. And I believe in you, so you can do good things. I don't know, I feel like there was a more eloquent way of saying that, but you get the idea. Believe in yourself and just do whatever you need to do to support conservation. Getting started is the hardest part. And just do it. Just get out there and do it. And on that TED talky note, that brings us to the end. I can't believe we've answered all those questions and all those people came out to support me. And I thank you all so much. I wanted to take a moment at the end of this to just say thank you so much to everyone who's listened, who's everyone subscribed, to everyone's reviewed, to everyone who's been a guest on the show or asked me a question about the show or shared the show with one of your friends. Thank you all so much. I could never have believed that my little Scottish voice would be all over the world. It's in over 80 countries, been listened to 25,000 times in all of I could never have dreamed about this when I started, and I'm so grateful for every single one of you. I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to support me and to allow me to interview people who I've always admired, to allow me to go to events like the Chester's Who Youth Symposium that would have never believed that I could have done, who have allowed me to travel the country reviewing zoos, who've allowed me to walk along a beach in Greece and talk about turtles or myths or whatever it was. Thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. To guests who are maybe listening and haven't asked a question, you are also fantastic. To the people who asked questions and were guests, thank you so much. To the friends and family who asked questions, to the fans who asked questions, thank you all so much. And thank you, listeners, of course, at home. Thank you. I could not be more grateful for all of you. And I guess I don't want to go, but I need to wrap up because I wish I could repay you with more, but I feel like I'd just be wasting your time because I just ramble about things. So yes, I should probably wrap this up. And to do that, I will, of course, I'll recap the names. Thank you to Felix, to Sarah, to Catherine, to Katie, to Kees, to Eva, to Jodi, to Tasnia, to Andres, to Daniel, to Penny, to everyone. Thank you so much for asking your questions. Thank you, listeners, once again, for all of your support. If you'd like to follow the show, you can do on social media. We're at Pangolin Podcast. We're everywhere. Let's make the next 50 episodes even bigger than these by sharing them all over that place. So follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter. We're all over the place. Follow us on all of those. Subscribe to the show on your podcast streaming service of choice, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Stitcher, all sorts of ours. Subscribe on there and leave us a review if you're so inclined. We would be very, very grateful. And yes, I love you all so much. Thank you. And until next time, goodbye, everyone.